Thank all of you for being here today. We appreciate that. We'll try to keep this short and pointed. In the past, we've had the opportunity for the state of the cities, for each of the representatives to come forward and give their featured presentation. We thought there might be a more interactive process, which would be moderated and allow all of the 4 cities to be represented at the same time and to have more of an interaction. So we're going to do that today. And we're very fortunate to have as our moderator Mr. Jim Hall, a good friend who is with Kennewick Regional Medical Center, currently has a number of responsibilities, including the weekly radio program, Cadillac on Call, and the TV program, Weekly Health Journal. I think it's Community Health Journal that's on each week. Some of you may remember Jim when he was in the broadcasting business for KEPR. He's a great friend and a great person. He'll do a great job here in doing this moderation, so we look forward to it. So with that, I'd like to ask you to give a good chamber welcome to Jim Hall.
Well, thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here today and join all of you. And I am honored to have been invited by Tony and Lori in the chamber to broker today's Middle East peace accord. No, but seriously, I've had the good fortune of working at Cadillac for 23 years now. And when I started, the workforce totaled about 650 people. Today, it is more than 3,500. And I point this out because over the years, as our recruiters go out around the road and around the country looking for health professionals to recruit to the Tri-Cities, one thing that I noticed mostly is that the difference maker is the community. And what does the community have to offer them? The professional opportunities seem to take care of themselves, that it's ultimately the community which is the final decision point, the caliber of the schools, how much traffic you have, the crime rate, affordability, recreational and social opportunities, and of course our great weather. I know these components have been a tremendous tool to help Cadillac and other healthcare institutions in the Tri-Cities bring new doctors, nurses, and healthcare professionals to our community and our region, and I'm sure it applies to other business sectors too. So that really drives home the importance in my mind of this discussion we're having today with our mayors. What are the key issues on the horizon in our community as we look to the future? So now we want to bring to the stage our 4 mayors. It's almost like a game show appearance here. And everything is scripted. I've got to tell you, we're introducing them in order of alphabetized based on city. So I am so tempted to introduce these like I'm a PA announcer at a basketball game, but I won't do that. Because especially for Steve Young, I'd love to be able to do that because he would be our point guard. But Steve Young is the 2nd longest serving mayor in the long history of Kennewick. He joined the city council in 2008. And has served as mayor since 2009. Steve currently serves on the boards of the Ben Franklin Transit, the Joint Coliseum Advisory Board, Energy Communities Alliance, Fireman's Pension Fund, Hanford Communities, Manhattan Project National Park, and Visit Tri-Cities, and this is just to name a few. For his day job, Steve serves as Vice President of Mission Support Alliance, a company with nearly 2,000 employees, where he continues to support DOE in site-wide operations and program integration and budget planning for the Richland Operations Office. Steve and his wife, Anita, who is with us today, have lived in Kennewick since 1986. Please welcome Kennewick Mayor Steve Young.
Thanks. You remember the last time we did it? Back in 1990.
He was just reminding me, we did a televised one of these back in 1990. Weren't you running for the legislature?
He's already in the wrong seat. Hey, Young, you're already in the wrong seat. Gentlemen, way over there.
Steve, they would like you to move down 3 seats to your right.
We are going to work on the Alzheimer's.
Is that right?
All right, batting second on. Okay, I think this is tough duty I have today.
It's that bad.
Mayor Matt Watkins was elected to the Pasco City Council in 2004, elected mayor in 2010. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Social Sciences from Washington State University and currently works as a software engineer for Lucas Engineering in Richland. One set of Mayor Watkins' grandparents homesteaded in Eltopia during the early years of the Columbia Basin Project, as well as another set owning a laundry in downtown Pasco a few years after World War II. His father continued to farm asparagus, and mother managed the port of Kennewick. And his mom's here today.
Oh, shoot.
Matt graduated from Kennewick High School in 1986. He chose to make Pasco his home in 1995 because of the diversity of the community, reasonably priced homes, and proximity to quality tacos. Matt is an avid long-distance and adventure motorcycle rider, and Mayor Young has exited the building.
Just keep on going.
Now, Matt is an avid long-distance runner, as I had mentioned, an avid motorcycle rider. Not long-distance runner, I don't believe. Rider. He toured the U.S. and Canada extensively and has finished the 11-day-long, and I kid you not, Iron Butt Rally 3 different times, which is something I think qualifies him to be a mayor. Please welcome Pasco Mayor Matt Watkins. And then there's Bob Thompson. Bob is a lifelong resident of the city of Richland. He served on the council in Richland since January of 1994 and as mayor 2 different times, 2000 to 2004, and from January of 2016 till now. Mr. Thompson received his BA in political science from Washington State University and has his law degree from Willamette University. I have full disclosure, I have a son that's a Husky, hardest thing I've ever had to do. So he's currently in private practice, has held a number of memberships in Washington State Trial Lawyers Association, the Washington Defenders Association, the Western State Trial Lawyers Association, and the National Association of Criminal Defense Attorneys. Bob is past president of the Benton Franklin Health Department, president of Dial Help. He served as the vice chair of the Energy Communities Alliance and has recently been appointed as chair. Bob was also appointed in May of 2009 to the Environmental Management Advisory Board by then Energy Secretary Stephen Chu. Join me in welcoming Richland Mayor Bob Thompson.
Good to see you.
Brent Gary, the mayor of West Richland. Brent was elected mayor and began serving his 4-year term in January of 2014. Mayor Gary previously served as a West Richland City Council member for 4 years, from 2010 to 2013. He's been married to his wife Denise for 28 years, 2 daughters, 4 grandkids, and they've lived in West Richland for 24 years, and I'm sure much has changed over that time. Brent and Denise are second-generation owners of Richland Auto Care Center, having purchased the family business from Denise's grandfather. Please welcome West Richland Mayor Brent Gary. So, what do you think of this quartet, shall we call them?
It's always a pleasure.
I want to point out these tables in between the chairs not only hold their water, they're a dual purpose. We'll be having arm wrestling contests before the afternoon is over.
I'm in trouble.
But we do have some questions we want to run by them, some very serious topics to address. And I want to start with a softball question for you. Have any of you had secret contacts with the Russian ambassador?
I don't recall.
I couldn't resist, sorry. Earlier today, as we all walked into the event, we had the Small Business Resource Fair highlighting local resources available to business owners. Our first question has to do with small business. And what we're going to do, just so you're aware, everything, as we mentioned, is going to be in the interest of fairness. So we will go in order based on alphabetized how we introduce them. And every subsequent question, we will move that order up 1. So it won't be the same order for each question as far as who answers which one. But Mayor Young, why don't you start out? Why is small business important to the city of Kennewick?
Well, I think all of us in here today know that small business is what keeps America running. It's the largest group of employers in this nation. And in the city of Kennewick, we work hard to develop small businesses, to help build small businesses up. We've been working over the last few years to put contracts in place and opportunities for local small businesses to help them grow. But it's the heartbeat of the city of Kennewick is our small businesses, whether it's in downtown, the entertainment district, or Southridge. Just look around and see how many are successful small businesses.
Thank you, Mayor Young. On to you, Mr. Watkins.
I think about it, and one of the things you introduced me about, and one of the reasons I moved Pasco was a diversity thing. And I think your small businesses add a diversity to things. The figure is 60 to 80% of U.S. businesses are small businesses, and I believe there's 13 times more patents from those firms. Those small businesses contribute to the health, the wealth, and also the diversity of a community. And I think prime example that I'm very proud of is, and the shout out is to the taco crawl. Those are examples of small businesses that are thriving in Pasco, and I think a great example, small.
Mayor Thompson?
Yeah, I think that it's important to understand that each community is a little different, but the one thing that brings us all together is our commitment to small business. The ability to have small business succeed, and Richland's a government town, right? And so at least half of our employment is out at the site, which was traditionally from the 40s and 50s the way things were. The city understood that that's not always going to happen. As a result, developing small business has become kind of a crucial role for the city of Richland. Richland has AskRichlandBusiness.com. It's a website that allows small business to act together to assist in that effort. But you know, the role of government is to provide a place where regulations land and the cost of doing business is important. People locate there. Richland's lucky because we have about 10% more income per capita than the other communities. So if you're looking at it from a business development perspective, Richland has a little bit of an edge just because we have more resources to throw at the problem. And as a result, Richland, you look at Queensgate, the development that's pretty much run out of room there. And then you look at Columbia Point. When we did Columbia Point, we thought it'd be 30 years before it filled out. I got to tell you, it's been 15 years and it's pretty much done. And so again, giving people the opportunity to be successful is what the role of cities are. And frankly, I congratulate all the cities in providing that environment to enable entrepreneurs that I look out here to be successful. And I think that's what we do well.
Mayor Gary from West Richland.
I have to echo the same sentiments as Mayor Young, that small business certainly is the heartbeat of America. I look out here today with all of the individuals we have here, 450 strong. I'm going to ask every one of you small business owners to raise your hands right now. So look at this. This is a lot of small business right here today. The city of West Richland, being a bedroom community, certainly has its challenges in regards to small business. We have approximately 80% leakage of retail sales tax to our sister cities. With being a bedroom community, everybody going to work.
That's why we built that bridge for them, just like
working on building. And that's another reason that when he's built out with his Queensgate area, they're going to continue on west, which we've already seen that with other projects that we have going on out in the city. But it's certainly a challenge with the bedroom community to attract business in general. So we have to be creative in our planning, in our Public Works Department, how to invite the small business to come and build and locate in our city. So we work real hard in the planning department to make it easier to permit, Public Works maybe to help incentivize some special needs of some sort. Example, the Van Giesen corridor. Years ago, the state widened the Van Giesen state highway that runs through the city of West Richland, took all of our frontage away from our business owners. So when I was elected, we had to address some problems, and one of them was incentivized through parking regulations to make it easier for people to get a business going and have the parking spaces that were available to small business. So we reduced that and created some shared parking and helped incentivize the Van Giesen corridor redevelopment.
Quick follow-up on that, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, Mayor Gary, is the population of West Richland, say today versus 10 years ago, what kind of growth have we seen?
Yeah, well, for example, when I moved to the city of West Richland, we had 4,000 people. And now we're right bumping at 15,000. So the growth is incredible, and with that comes challenges. But with the talented staff that I have here today and the ones that are still back holding the fort down, we are able to take on that task and be successful.
Mayor Thompson, on the topic of you all addressed the importance of small business in each of your communities, and I'm sure you end up competing for those businesses, but in the end is the important thing making sure those people, those businesses stay in the Tri-Cities?
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, co-opetition is a good thing. I mean, we are all in this together, and where one community may fail on an individual business, that just opens another opportunity for the other communities. And people don't seem to understand this. And so let me just simply make it as clear as I can. The Tri-Cities is a wonderful place to live and do business. The cost of doing business and the regulations that prohibit business from being succeeded are about the 10th of that on the west side of the state. The ability to transport goods and services, transport employees to their place of work is a 10th. And so if we are not successful, it is because we haven't really done what we need to do. And again, we have all the opportunity. I guess the one thing that people may not know in this audience, but the mayors get together at least on a monthly basis and discuss the ongoing business opportunities that each one might have. And so we're cognizant of what's going on around us. We don't stand in each other's way. We want people to be successful. You know, you've got this organization, you've got Visit Tri-Cities, you've got TriDec. We're all in this together, folks. We're in competition with other people on the rest of the state. And so I think that we are very fortunate to be working pretty much all in the same yoke, doing the right thing.
Mayor Watkins?
To actually point out a specific and tangible example, Pasco thanking Richland in a case where the AutoZone that we've $40 million investment actually came to Richland first. Didn't quite work out, but Richland, to their credit, said, you know, look at Pasco, there's some a little better fit. And I think that's that example of co-opetition. If you're not going to get it for yourself, make sure it stays in the Tri-Cities, and a prime example. Mayor
Young?
I'm so far down here, I didn't hear the question.
Or you forgot it.
Okay, I forgot it.
I know I'm having a tough time hearing all of you, but no, a question to the point being that you all obviously want the small business coming to your particular city, but the important, larger consideration, I would think, would be that it stays in the Tri-Cities, if not your community.
Yeah, in fact, that's the biggest challenge that we at the city, whether it's staff or council, the biggest challenge we have is we're constantly trying to find outside businesses to relocate to our city. Why? It creates more jobs. It brings more people. The problem is that we can never do that and slight our existing small businesses to get that accomplished. And so we're constantly trying to always remember the things that are good for our small businesses are the things that will bring other businesses to this area. If the small businesses in the Tri-Cities region are satisfied and enjoy living here and enjoy working here and find the right talent for the jobs that they have to do, they will be the ones to bring the other industries here. And so we always have this balancing act of encouraging other major industries to come to our area, but at the same time, we have to take care of our local small businesses and make sure their needs are being met.
We're going to go back to our questions from this sheet that I have in front of me, and we'll start with you, Matt, and then go Bob, Brent, and Steve. But on this very topic, what is each of your cities doing to promote economic development?
A few examples, and staff wrote some notes here, so hopefully I'm not leaking something that isn't coming out soon, but we're going to bring on an economic development manager specifically for Pasco. I even see the name Michael Morales coming up, so hopefully that's not leaking something out. So if you see the name, it's coming out. My city managers give me a thumbs up, so that's good. one of the things we've been doing, and Dave himself and staff, going off and attending the ICSC, stands for International Council of Shopping Centers show in Las Vegas, try to attract some major retail businesses to Pasco. Of course, they don't stick to Pasco. We'll make sure they try and stick in the Tri-Cities. And probably something you've been seeing a little bit about, the Broadmoor area of Pasco, the Road 100 area. We've been going through a process with stakeholders to formulate a long-term development plan for that area for infrastructure impacts, and not just develop it piecemeal. I think it might be something more modeled on Columbia Point as an example of thinking about the future. And I think that Broadmoor area, we know that's the geographic center of the Tri-Cities right now. Also, some of the things we've been doing, focusing on essential utilities. Your question earlier, I started in 2004. Pasco was 40,000 people, and we're over 70,000 now, and that's just about 14 years later. So amazing amount of growth. So you got to keep up with all your infrastructure. Water reuse facility is one example. That value add to not having to send the water to the sewer system, but to a reuse facility that's that washes the potatoes out at the reesers and those places. We've also been working on rail spurs, economic development with the port, Lewis Street overpass. We're going to get that done one of these days. And also some Oregon Street improvements. Anybody who might have gone out to this cemetery and see the rolling wall might have seen some Oregon Street improvements. So some tangible examples of Pasco working on those.
Mayor Thompson?
Yeah, I think, I answered this a little bit earlier, but it is important to create the framework where business can be successful. When I grew up in Richland, and Richland was a government town. How many of you contract with the federal government? Anybody? Just a few of you. You know why? Because going through the process and procedures for a small business to get a part of the pie in the federal system is extremely difficult. That applies across the board. When I came to the city of Richland back when I started doing this, the regulations and rules on how to go about getting a business license. You'd go here, then you'd have to go 3 blocks down to get another box checked and move it. Government doesn't have to be that hard and doesn't have to be that big of an obstacle to create success. The city council and its staff over the number of years I've worked there have done everything they can to streamline those operations. I really think the success for business and economic development, I won't talk about specifics about what we're doing. I think that comes up in a later question perhaps, Jim. But again, having a good staff that understands what the goal is. You don't have to micromanage everything. If you know you got to get over there, you don't have to run over there when you know you got to end up over there. So Cindy, our city manager, has done an excellent job acquiring talent that understands that we want to end up over there and not hold people up along the way for purely regulatory reasons. And those people, most of them are here today, so I just want to give you people their name because you have the opportunity to work in Richland, and these are the people you need to contact. So if I could, John Amundson, Kerwin Jensen, Zach Radke, Miles Thomas, and Darren Aaronsmith. Those are individuals, and if you look at it, the number of people we've got committed to economic development is a little larger than a lot of people. But again, our role is not only just local business, but we have a lot of federal things that go on in the city as well. We have Cadillac. Think about the improvements in the Swift Corridor, right? It's amazing what happens when you give the opportunity for people to be successful and get the hell out of the way. And I think that's maybe what the city of Richland tries to do. Get the hell out of the way and let you guys be successful.
Mayor Gary in West Richland.
Well, that's why I bought Grandpa's business, because they got out of the way for him some 20, 30 years ago. So we thank you for that. Appreciate it. Well, he's a tough act to follow. These attorneys, they're long on the wind there. I love him, though. Economic development. Last year, I was up here talking to you about a wine effluent facility that the city of West Richland was under construction out the Red Mountain Center area. That facility was completed in 2016 and was successful in its first processing of wine waste. And not only was it successful at that, but it also bared some fruit, no pun intended, with the Crimson Wine Group out of California coming up to the Red Mountain Center in the city of West Richland, purchasing property and producing or under construction for their Double Canyon label, 40,000 square foot facility. And that facility will be able to produce approximately 40,000 cases annually with the opportunity to build another addition to their facility and potentially have 100,000 case production. So that's something that's been successful in the City of West Richland and the Red Mountain Center. Also, we have the Belmont Business District that is doing a couple of things. With the Belmont Business District and the relocation of the Municipal Services Facility, which was the new City Hall, up on 7 acres of one of the corners that is a 20-acre parcel, that became the anchor tenant for the development of the Belmont Business District. Now, years past, the City of West Richland has not had true shovel-ready property. We've had some dirt, but nothing that had infrastructure, curb, gutter, water, sewer, electrical, those things. So with the council's foresight to allow the municipal services that will be located at Belmont Business District, we now have the opportunity for approximately 44,000 square feet of commercial retail space that front Keene Road. And then you also notice that with the construction of that facility, it opened up the opportunity to partner with a landowner, to bring a landowner together with Richland School District to build a new middle school that is almost complete and be open for the kids this year, as well as the property directly behind the middle school, which will be the next Richland High School. So with that, the economic development of the Belmont Business District is huge because the city owns this property, the city's marketing it, we've set our design standards and an expectation of what we want to see for business in the city of West Richland. So with that, I'm very proud of our staff that worked very hard to make this happen, as well as the council to have the vision that the city of West Richland needs to provide opportunities for growth, and the only way that we can do it is be inventive in that manner. In years past, when properties became available in prime commercial areas, people would buy that property and they'd sit on it because it was going to be a good investment. Well, a good investment to an individual is not a good investment for our community. So I've made sure that we've gone the direction to provide the opportunities for small business and growth in the city of West Richland.
Mayor Young, do I need to repeat the question?
No,
Sorry,
that's right.
sorry. Economic development in Kennewick.
Yeah, you know, we use this term economic development. It's kind of become the flavor of the month. What we're really talking about is what are cities doing to drive the economy upward. And there's not much a city can do to boost the economy. What the city has to do is provide systems and infrastructure to encourage a growth in that. First of all, there's got to be safety and security for everybody. If a business feels safe and secure in doing its business in our community, and if we make it easy in the city of Kennewick to do business, then they'll be successful. For example, we committed to increasing our safety and security in the city of Kennewick about 8 to 10 years ago. And what we've done since then is we now have the new tax that we use for hiring our new police officers. And that was done by the voters countywide. And in that period of time, we've hired 15 new officers. Why? Because we want the public and the businesses to feel safe and secure in being able to do business in our community. But we also had to make it easy for businesses. And what we did is we began to research ways to get permits done so that buildings could get built much quicker with a much more finite cost. And so we developed an over-the-counter approach to permitting. And so a business, an individual wants to go out and build, as we're having built now, several hundred homes are being built in the Hanson Ridge area on South 10th Street. And you're going to see more and more of that. Well, what we had to do is find a way for those developers to get those houses built more quickly with a fixed cost. And so we have an over-the-counter program that's working almost too good in the fact that we're having to hire people in the city of Kennewick just to keep the permits flowing. But then we had to also find land. And the challenge we face in the city of Kennewick is because of the wonderful state of Washington's idea about urban growth management, meaning you don't get to grow. They said, look, you've got this natural division called I-82. So I'm assuming God put that in according to the state. And so right now, we can't grow beyond I-82. So we're having to provide a place for businesses to grow and a place for them to do business. And for many years now, we've wanted to put in a new road called the Steptoe Hildebrand. What it's really, if you take a look at what the city of Kennewick done, it has put a loop around the city. And it's taken every piece of land that we have in the city and opened it up for both housing, in other words, family living, as well as business, whether it's commercial or industrial, to try to find ways for the cities to offer businesses an opportunity to grow and expand within the city. So there's many things that cities are doing. That's probably one of the areas the four mayors spend talking about on a monthly basis more than anything else, is how can we help such and such get to where they need to get to. And that's what our cities, all four of the cities, are working hard to get those accomplished. And it's one of the things we take the most pride in.
I want to interject a quick question, just hopefully a 15, 20-second response from each of you. And let's start with you, Mayor Thompson. What keeps you up at night as your role as a mayor in your community? Say that again.
General Matheson. No.
You know, magical thinking. People think things happen without planning and without resources. Too many people think stuff just happens. Anybody who's been in business or in city government knows that's not how it works. You've got to get rid of magical thinking. The unicorns don't save you. You got to save yourself and you got to save your community. That's what worries me. There's a lot of people that don't understand that concept.
Mayor Gary?
Boy, there's a lot of things that keep me up at night. But as the mayor and the CEO of the city, the responsibility of how to grow the city in a manageable way that is going to be for the better interest of all of the community while protecting the lifestyle in which everybody has come to West Richland to live and experience and raise their families. It's a challenge that's ongoing, and it'll be ongoing for years to come, but I'm one that can take that challenge on and be successful with the staff and the council that we have.
Mayor Young?
My golf swing. No, you know, my concern is that the next 20 years in this region will be a time of change that's unprecedented for those who grew up in this area. What concerns me is how willing the public is to invest in what needs to be invested in. We consistently hear about the things people want, the things they believe they need. And then when you start talking about the cost of those things, people panic. And so we're getting ready to go into a new time of maturity for this area. And I think a lot about how are we going to get there from here. It's all part of everybody committing to it, and I think about that a lot.
Mayor Watkins?
I'm a fundamentally positive person, and the outlook, Tracy, is great. I believe that strongly. But what does keep me awake at night? The people who aren't in this room. 460 people here, by and large, get it and know that things are always more complex than just the surface answer. Some of the things on social media where people think if you just get out of your own way, everything's going to be okay. And it's always more complex than that. And the challenge that myself and everybody in this room to make sure and tell people the truth and the full truth about how things happen. It happens because people are determined. And trolls get me a little bit, and that's an honest answer.
You've all touched on the issue of infrastructure, and to this very point of what is the right balance as we grow as a community. You know, when are we going to get, when we get too big, or the concerns that we get too big on infrastructure in particular, to Mayor Young's point about the community and the resources required to fund these. Some of these projects that are necessary aren't, for lack of a better word, the sexy projects that really appeal to people. They're necessary projects. Maybe start with you, Mayor Gary.
Well, boy, you hit that on the head. The Public Works Department thinks that water and sewer are sexy, so I don't know how they get that figured out. But
My apologies.
now, some of the projects that we're working on is reconstruction of a Brotherhood Reservoir. As our city has aged, so is some of the infrastructure, and we've got to stay up with that. Water is a necessity, obviously, for everybody's community. We have the Quad City water rights, but in large, the city of West Richland relies on water wells. So we have a new well that's out on the Lewis and Clark Ranch, and we have a new reservoir that we're constructing to house that water. But some of the other things that we've got going on for the infrastructure aspect of it is let me back up one. We have to look real hard at how we're going to find funding for infrastructure. Small community, not a large general fund resource. So we rely a lot on grants, low interest loans, things of that nature, which our wonderful state has pretty much taken away from all of us, unfortunately, with the sweeping of funds from the Public Works Trust Fund, as well as some of the other challenges that we deal with unfunded mandates that our state makes sure that we abide by to create somebody a job to read a report that usually goes on a shelf. But that was for our Public Works Director, Roscoe Slade, who's not here today, but I thought I'd throw that out for him. But with the grants and different things, we were successful with I just got a letter from the Benton Franklin Council of Governments Transportation Office. And we were awarded a Surface Transportation Block Grant, which is an STBG, then acronym. We all have acronym books. We can't read them, and then we also were awarded a project for the Transportation Alternative Program, which is TAP. And these are multi-million-dollar projects, and what they're going to allow us to do is, if anybody's been out to the city of West Richland at Road 38th and Van Giesen, as you head up the hill, you run into a dirt road, and it goes up over the top of the hill into the county, and then comes out on the other side by the lakes. And so we're going to be able to, with those million-dollar funds, we're going to be able to create that infrastructure, that roadway to go up and over that hill there. And then we're also going to be able to extend the bombing range Phase 8 from Keene Road out to Kennedy. So those are just a few of the things that we have going on, but there's always infrastructure needs. And anytime you have an opportunity to get funding to better your infrastructure, then it's something that's a necessity. We ask council to find matching funds for some of these projects, but they also understand that it's a necessity to make sure that our infrastructure is maintained. Being a relatively young city, we do have the older sections, but we have new roads, we have new water systems, we have new sewer systems, but the disadvantage to that is Richland dealt with the challenge and beat it with infrastructure, is we have to be able to figure out how we're going to maintain these infrastructures when they all deteriorate at the same time. So sometimes councils have to make difficult decisions, as Richland did with their project that they had to do to finance the bridge as well as the roads in their town. And I think we'll all have to take a look at the needs at some point in time. They may not be popular, but they are a necessity.
And is that your point, Mayor Young, that these are necessary and we all need to understand that some of them might require additional investment?
Yeah, well, it's, we, in the city of Kennewick, we're growing so fast that to keep up, we have to make sure we have the roads, we have to make sure we have sewer and water and electric, and it just goes on and on. But have one blip on the screen, and now you got to play catch up. For example, this winter, for those that have noticed in Kennewick, we have potholes. Well, those potholes were caused by what? Changing in temperatures, hard winter. And so we had a strategy in place to go out and start resurfacing our roads to get us for the next 10 to 20 years. What we're going to have to do now is take that money to try to patch the roads so that I don't get yelled at quite as much, and at the same time try to find ways to finance resurfacing that has to be done. Then you've got the sewer systems. As hard as we work to plan ahead, sometimes it catches up with you, and we've got lots to do with our sewer systems. First of all, the lines are deteriorating from the sewer gases, and so there's much to do there. And then water, We're fortunate that we did play in hand, and the state allowed us to put an aquifer in at the south end of town, which gives us plenty of water in the city of Kennewick. But plenty of water might be in my lifetime, but my children's lifetime and grandchildren's lifetime, it's not. So there's all of that to think about while you're still trying to do the sexy jobs. You know, we wanted to expand the convention center. Why? Because it brings in another $100 million a year in economic drivers. The public said, no, we don't need it. The problem is, without that $100 million in economic drivers, we have to come back to the public and say, well, we need more money to do these things. So it's a constant balancing act, and we're all facing it, whether it's the sexy jobs or the bridges, you know.
Mayor Watkins?
I think I'm going to go ahead and get this on the sexier joke in the end, but the nerdy stuff, because we don't do these acronyms. So Pasco, because it's been growing, we added a water intake some years ago, but we've got to increase capacity to it. So about 18 million gallons planned, and that's a $4.4 million this year that we're going to be spending on more water capacity. It's a great thing that we have the Quad City water rights. That processed water reuse facility I was talking about, we're going to add about $6 million to that, do a new lift for more capacity to that operation. 20th Avenue and also traffic signal upgrades add up to about 3.7. And although this is cheap, Broadmoor master plan, we must be running out of juice.
I think it's voice activated. I think let's turn it more this way.
Okay. Your years in AV skills are appreciated. Thank you. I mentioned the Broadmoor master plan.
I'll put it on your tab, Mayor Young.
Only $250,000, but when that's done, we're going to have the perfect place to place the Nordstroms, the Trader Joe's, the Six Flags. What else did we need in our community? What was the favorite things? And an IKEA. Oh, and also the second Costco. So we're all going to just put that in Broadmoor.
That does beg the question. Give us a Trader Joe's update, somebody.
We got about 8,000 people in our Facebook group, and I believe it was about 11,000 when Spokane finally got theirs. Data point. But they're a sphinx. What they actually do.
I had a meeting with them last week, so.
Wow.
Is after you met with the
It's going to be a lively monthly meeting, it sounds like.
And they called me right after they talked to you.
That's because they talked to Bob first and they couldn't go back to him, so.
Mayor Thompson, you could do me a great favor by, do you have anybody to buy the vacant Albertsons building yet? We get asked about that every single day, and the last I heard, no interest on Cadlic's viewpoint, at least I don't know, but that's the one we keep getting asked.
We're not convinced that's done yet, but it might be in the works. How's that? You know, sometimes business plans, not everybody wants their plans revealed, and so I'll leave it at that. How's that?
Very good.
I got to chime in on that one because years ago people wanted to change the name of the city of West Richland to something different, and a guy emailed me, says, don't worry about doing that. He says pretty soon Richland's going to be named Cadillac.
He just wishes he had our tax base. I know it's been difficult for you, but it's okay.
You guys are growing, and we certainly appreciate it.
No comment. Get deep. No.
You know, you're kind of playing against the team here. You got to
Well, I want to make him feel at home. You know, if you're going to roast the mayors, you might as well roast the host.
Yeah, why not? Remember, I'm standing.
Oh, yes.
No, I do have a question. You've all talked about thoughtful growth and economic development and the importance of that to the vibrancy of the community. Talk to me about where you're at with balancing all of the environmental needs and the open spaces and you know, places like Badger Mountain, Candy Mountain, the Amon Basin, all of these places around the Tri-Cities that, who wants to touch that? I just think with this, does that kind of go to that whole balance thing that you've been talking about?
Well, I'll take that on because I think Richland's going to have some real challenges coming up in this next year and throughout the rest of this year. You know, life itself is a balance. How you spend your resources and where you allocate them can provide balance. If you don't have resources, it provides balance in a different way that you may not like. Like the basin area for behind Now, you know, we have this plot of land by Claybell that there's a road designed to go through. That comes with a great deal of angst for people who don't want it to go through because it goes through a preserve. Now, it's an awkward place for a city to be because the road was zoned and platted a number of years, and the city of Kennewick, school district at least, relies on that road to build a school. And then housing is developed as well. And so, you know, you talk about preserving the ridge lines. Richland's done a pretty good job, and frankly, the individuals who support open spaces has helped the city of Richland understand how important that is to a number of individuals. The difficult thing from a community perspective is, what is that balance? There are, I don't know, I guess I'm going to use the term hypocrisy here. There are a number of individuals that already have what they want. They have their view shed, or they don't want their view shed interrupted. And it's amazing how some of those individuals seem to be the biggest opponents of growth. And I've always found it interesting to you know, it's, you know, for a guy that does what I do, it's kind of fun to screw with people like that because they're not very consistent. I got what I need, to hell with you. And I'm kind of going, how about the new people? Well, they really don't care about the new people because they want to preserve what they have. And so balance is even harder than you think, right? I mean, you can talk resources, but how about giving people the opportunity to what you already have, or do you deny them? And on what basis do you do that? I mean, we do policy stuff up here, right? We try to figure out how we're going to end up down there and what's the best approach. It's a far more complicated animal than you might think. And so I'll leave it at that. It's a challenge, it really is.
Let's go the other way, Matt.
Two things. One of these isn't Pasco specific, but is our region specific, and that has to do with our wonderful Ben Franklin Transit. As I look around, including myself, I see a grain of our community, and we provide an incredible service with dial-a-ride. Everybody knows what dial-a-ride is. That is obligated to provide curb-to-curb service, but in the Tri-Cities we provide, well, not only door-to-door service, but occasionally grocery store checkout line to your table service. And that's something that we value greatly in this community. And I know there's transit folks over here who are very proud of that. That is going to become more expensive as the more of us end up using that service. I think we're going to wrestle with that question in the community, how to make sure we keep using existing resources efficiently, but how do we keep that as a service as we all get older? Second one is civic engagement. We had a lot of people turn out for elections, local elections this year, Pasco included. And that is wonderful, but at the same time, voter turnout still remains low, and we're going to say it forever, but getting the people, again, not in this room, interested in the public interest for city projects and efforts, how do get people engaged? And I point out there's a bright spot to that story, and I think the Pasco Police Department's Facebook page, it has, I don't know, 12,000 folks, Chief? 37,000 folks is a prime example of a little bit of genuineness and snarkiness to involve people. I think there are some models that we're going to need to go through in this community, and I think those include some of the challenges and some of the things that we can do even better.
Mayor Young and Mayor Gary, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I was sitting here thinking about that. You know, probably the biggest lesson I learned when I got on the council applies to what we're talking about, and that was when there's a certain point where success will only come through partnership, and you can do many things as an individual, but success will come as a team. For example, you know, in the city of Kennewick, I began to realize the importance of the Port of Kennewick. I began to realize the importance of Chief Hohenberg's relationship with federal agencies. I look at the partnership we built with the building trades in our area, all wanting to invest in a better community and a better future. But in order to have a balanced approach so that not one organization or one individual is covering the cost, it requires all of these partnerships. What I found the difficulty to be is they don't all do what I tell them. And so I have to get along with them, you know. But that's been a great lesson for me, to see how much more gets done through partnerships. You look at each year, this event has grown. I think it's grown every year since I've been the mayor. Maybe it was me, I don't know. But I'm the only one not running this year, by the way. But I think everything is growing and becoming better because of the relationships we're building between companies and between agencies and organizations. And to me, I think that's where we have to continue to get better and better.
Mayor Gary, finally, before we go to our final question.
Well, I'll let you go to that final question because I've heard 3 different answers and I forgot what the heck we were going to talk about.
The balance of the environmental side, the development side, the economic side, all of that. Where you're going to have vineyards all the way to your city limits before long.
Yeah.
I know. So
yeah.
Where is West Richland in that perspective?
Well, you know, and with the growth aspect of the city of West Richland, you know, we're growing fast, but we're not growing to the point of where our borders are being challenged, where our open spaces are being challenged. The council makes sure that when we develop and we grow, we have that open space, and we have the parks, and we have we have a different variety of properties. We have large lots, we have small lots, high density, medium density. We've got it all. And one of the real challenges that I see within the city, not pushing the boundaries, is to make sure that we maintain, again, as I mentioned, the lifestyle that people are accustomed to. And we're going through a comp plan right now, and it's a conversation that's, I think, all of our councils have had as they're working through their comp plans too, is how do we set our boundaries for our community and for our city. But with the wine industry banging on what I hope will be our front door when the I-82 interchange comes in, it just can't help but be a great economic driver for the city of West Richland. So with that, I guess small is good if you don't have to push the boundaries and go deal with FutureWise on a regular basis.
Well, we have just enough time for each of our mayors to offer a takeaway message for all of us here today. And why don't we start with you, Mayor Gary, and something from your view on representing your community of helping us all walk out of here with a great perspective from West Richland's point of view.
Well, you know, West Richland is certainly unique, and I've touched on that. We're fortunate to be involved with our surrounding sister cities. You know, I feel very honored to sit with 3 distinguished mayors, as you have up here this afternoon. We do have a great dialogue when we sit for our lunch meetings, and we really give each other a better perspective of the challenges in which we all have. Some of the fortunate things that we have in the city of West Richland is indeed our citizens, and being the variety that we have. We have a very young community with approximately 36 to 38-year-old age group, highest income per capita. We have a talented council and staff that work very hard to make sure that we have the amenities and the quality of life that we want to have in the city of West Richland. And as you all have heard, the city of West Richland is the best place in the state of Washington to raise a family. That's why I brought my family out there many years ago, and my daughter has stayed, and they're raising my grandchildren out there as well. So we're very fortunate to have a great environment to raise our kids in. When we also have a safe city with the chief and past chiefs and employees that we have in our force, law enforcement. We are one of the 6 safest cities, the 6th safest city of the state of Washington. Say that fast 3 times. But and then the ability for all of these communities to work together in partnership. There's so many things that we do. The emergency services, fire, health safety issues. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It may be 4 cities, but we're all in one. When anybody needs help, your brother will be right next door, and we're all fortunate to have the communities that we live in. But
thank you, Mayor Gary.
The city of West Richland is certainly best is west.
Thank you, Mayor Gary. Kennewick Mayor Steve Young.
You know, we're very blessed people to live in the Tri-Cities, to be able to raise families in a safe environment, to be able to build a business from scratch, to get to know your neighbors, to be able to donate to agencies that need help. We're just very blessed to have what we have. But let me say that as good as it is to live here today, just watch and see what the future holds. It's only going to get better. It's going to be great for our children and grandchildren. The future's bright, and it's a perfect time to just enjoy relationships with one another.
Thank you, Mayor Young. Mayor Watkins.
Steve hits across the point. I've said before, I call this the golden age of the Tri-Cities. And when I say that, also increasingly, Brent and West Richland are clearly at the table of this. So one of the things I'd like to see and think that we should think about is what's the next thing for the Three Rivers community, unless somebody's got a better term. So in 20 years, we have an answer of what our greater Tri-Cities community is as a region. And one of those things also I think Steve was talking about too is those partnerships. The challenge is going to be coming for us, and I think it's very bright, is how we go from where we are to that next step as a regional center. And we've been doing it with things like transportation. How do we work on the partnerships for things that our peers, it used to be our peers were Yakima and Walla Walla, it's no longer true. How have Portland's and Vancouver's, how have Spokane's, how have Seattle's gone through that transition to a regional nature? And besides future being bright, I know that we're going to be able to answer that challenge.
Thank you, Mayor Watkins. And finally, Mayor Bob Thompson.
You know, I don't know if I want to make this a kumbaya sort of deal, but maybe I do. Mayor Young and Brent and Steve and I have a chance to travel with a group called the Energy Community Alliance and go around a lot of the Department of Energy sites. And a lot of those communities have greater challenges than we do. But what we have going for us is the cooperation and spirit of people who don't really know how to lose. Okay? There's a great deal of value with the idea of never quitting. All the communities that you see represented here have had their ups and downs over a period of time. My observation is that the generations are shifting. The generation that raised me in the city of Richland is passing on. The business leaders that used to be in my community and in the Tri-Cities are moving on. There is sometimes a lack of understanding on how it all kind of comes together. And so when I look to challenges for the community, I think we're going to be successful regardless of the challenge. But understanding how the pieces fit together and getting away, again, I like to use the term magical thinking, that things happen without a plan. The problem is everybody can have a plan and they may not know what their neighbor or their other business representative or trade organization or community or county governments aren't on the same page because they haven't communicated well enough together. I think that's the real challenge. The only thing that prevents the Tri-Cities becoming the shining star, if it's not already, of economic development in the state of Washington is a lack of vision or shared vision. The question is, how do we integrate the politics, the local governments, and the businesses, and the people together so there's a unified plan? That's really the challenge that you all have. Because frankly, I don't think you guys understand municipal finance. I have a kind of an idea because I'm a businessman on the personal, but they're different animals. But sometimes private businesses come to government thinking you can do this. You don't get to do it that way because of the municipal finance laws in the state of Washington. But if we had the dialogue, we wouldn't have that misunderstanding. And when you have a misunderstanding, what it does is it costs you time. And we can't afford to lose the time. You guys can't, we can't. We have a vibrant future ahead of us. I want you to know, just looking across the board here, I've been doing this perhaps for too long, but the community has never had a group of people that, from a local government perspective, is not so interested in self, because there's a lot of ego that gets involved in this stuff, but really want to drive the communities as a whole forward. And That's unique. It's unique in America, and we're blessed to have it today. And that's my kumbaya thing. The things that you need done, ask us. We understand what it is you need. We think we have people that do it, but sometimes it takes the political will to have things occur. And you're looking at least 4 people, I think, that have the desire to make success happen because it benefits us all. And so I'll leave it at that.
On that note, let us put our hands together for the mayors of West Richland, Pasco, and Kennewick. Thank you for being such attentive listeners. Thank you very much.